our Talmidim this year studying Maseches Kiddushin. My share particular this morning, this particular sugya is very much on their head. They have a pretty massive exam coming up in a few minutes. On the one of the sugyos that we're learning, the sugya of Kavod Rabbi, Maseches Kiddushin, and Lamed Gimel. The Gemara there draws a distinction between the kavod that one affords a general rabbi, any rabbi, as opposed to the honor that one has to give one's Rabbi Mubhak. Rabbi Mubhak, of course, means your rabbi that has taught you most of the Torah that you have learned, whether it be most of the Torah in quantity or in quality. And the Shach, in his commentary on Shulchan Aruch, the Shach points out that Rav Mubhak does not necessarily only mean the rabbi who has taught you most of the Torah that you have learned. Rav Mubhak also can mean a rabbi who is respected, who's a leader over many Jews, who many Jews look to for guidance, for advice, for inspiration. Rav Mubhak doesn't only mean your own personal rabbi, someone who's viewed as one of the rabbis, leaders of a generation, leaders of a community of Jews, Talmidei Chachamim, whose influence and inspiration spreads far and wide. This also has the categorization of Rav Mubhak, and therefore, as the Gemara says, one has to stand up kimulo einav, not just toch dal amos. Hopefully, you guys got a little hint to what's coming up on the Bechina. It's a truly great privilege for us this morning to host Rabbi Ephraim Mirvis, the chief rabbi of the United Hebrew Congregations of the British Commonwealth. Rabbi Mirvis has been involved in Rabbanos and Jewish leadership, in Torah scholarship, in Torah teaching, and Torah inspiring for many years. What's, I think, relevant to some of the boys here, Rabbi Mirvis studied in Yeshivat Kerem B'Yavneh. He studied in Yeshivat Har Etzion, in Gush, and many other places along the way, and has served as a rabbi and a communal leader, first as the chief rabbi of Ireland, and afterwards, now, since 2013, as the chief rabbi of the UK of England. And we are really, so many people already have been so inspired by a lot of the words of Rabbi Mirvis. I just want to also, before Rabbi Mirvis speaks, give a special thanks on Karas HaTov to Rabbi Billet, also a tremendous Jewish leader in our community. And again, I always recall Rabbi Billet's words about what Jewish leadership is about. How he talks about Rabbi Yosef, some of those people who take a stand and aren't afraid to be strong Jewish leaders and help lots of people. Rabbi Billet has certainly been a role model in our community, and we thank you so much for bringing Rabbi Mirvis to us this morning. Please give your attention and great public for us, Rabbi Ephraim Mirvis.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Kamenetsky, Rabbi Billet, Rabbanim, and students. It's such a huge pleasure for me to come into this Beit Midrash to see a sea of faces, young men who are committed to Torah study. Kol hakavod to your teaching staff, to all those responsible for running this wonderful school which has such a tremendous reputation. And for me it's an enormous pleasure just to be in your midst and to have this opportunity to share some thoughts with you. It's significant that we have a center called Parshat Behar, which relates to Har Sinai, indicating that mountains are significant in our tradition. Indeed, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided to give the Torah on the top of a mountain. At the same time, Chazal tell us that it's important to recognize that the Torah was given b'midbar, in a wilderness, in a desert, in a place which doesn't boast vegetation, which is modest in its very nature. And so we need to find a fusion between our own modesty and at the same time mountain style, raising our heads in pride. And the two don't contradict each other. It is correct, like Moshe Rabbeinu, who was Anat Mikol Adam, that we should be modest, not boastful, recognize that all our talents come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and at the same time, we should stand up, mountain style, as tall as possible, acknowledging with pride what we have achieved and what Klal Yisrael has achieved, and everything that we can justifiably be proud of. When Yaakov Avinu was just about to pass away, he summoned his grandchildren, Ephraim and Manasseh, born to Yosef and Osnat in Mitzrayim, and he gave them a bracha. And the key two words of that bracha, which I know you're all familiar with, were V'yitgu larov, may you multiply like fish. Why dafka like fish? Yaakov Avinu was suggesting that the future of Klal Yisrael would depend on our capacity to be just like fish. The Midrash explains as follows. We can differentiate between the kashrut of fish on the one hand and animals on the other with regard to their simanim. Animals have two simanim. One is external, the other internal. Cloven hooves, you can see. Chewing the cud, it's inside, you can't. With regard to fish, both of the simanim are external, fins and scales. You can see them both. Therefore, says the Midrash, the fish announces to the world, I've got nothing to hide. I'm proud of my kosher identity. I'm proud of my tradition, what I am about. And similarly, Yaakov Avinu was saying to his grandchildren and to them, to us through all generations, we need to stand up with pride. To declare to the world, we're Jewish, and we're proud of it. We have nothing to hide. Yonah, the Navi who was on the run, at a time when he wanted to flee from his responsibility to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, was in that boat on the high seas. Lots were cast, you're familiar with the story. They fell on Yonah, the captain comes to him and he poses 4 questions to him. He asks him 4 things. Where are you coming from? Where are you going to? What do you do? And what nation are you part of? And Yonah answers all 4 questions with 2 words. Hebrew Anochi. I'm a Hebrew. I'm Jewish. That's the essence of what I am about. We're living in a strange world today. When you emerge into the world out there to take on professions, to work, to study, to earn a living, you will find that there are different views of Jewish people. Baruch Hashem, there are so many Ohavei Yisrael who are hugely supportive of Am Yisrael and Medinat Yisrael, but at the same time, unfortunately, there are some who aren't that well disposed towards us. In my own experience, I have found that it is always best for us to declare our Jewishness, to say how proud we are, and without any doubt that will cause a Kiddush Hashem. We have nothing to hide. I learned this lesson when I was 10 years old. Indeed, today we're in London, in the UK. I've traveled the world a lot to Commonwealth countries. But I grew up in South Africa. And my father was the Rabbi of a number of kihilot. And between my ages of 5 and 12, I lived in a place called Benoni in South Africa, which probably you have never heard me mentioned. And in the future, you probably won't hear it being mentioned again. Benoni is well known in South Africa because in Benoni there is the world's largest gold mine. And as a result, there has always been a thriving commercial presence in the town. It's just 20 miles outside of Johannesburg. My father was the Rabbi of the Jewish Kehillah of Benoni. He started the Hillel school, but when I was at primary school, at that stage, there was no Jewish school. And the whole of Benoni was football crazy. I think we call it soccer here. And Benoni United got into the Premier Division of soccer in South Africa. It was a huge year. Everybody in the town was just meshuggah about soccer. And in that year when I was 10, I was selected to play for my school's soccer team. And it was the night before my first match. And I said to my parents, I will record it. I don't want to go to school tomorrow. I don't want to play in that match. They said, what are you talking about? You're in the team. We're so proud of you. We're coming to watch. I said, no, I'm not interested. They said, well, what's the problem? You're so good at football. You're so that. So I said, it's not the game I'm scared of. It's what's going to happen in the locker room before. They said, what do you mean? I said, because I'll have to take off my shirt and everyone will see my tzitzit. And they're going to laugh at me. So I said, please, just for one day, can you give me permission not to wear my tzitzit? They said, rubbish, nonsense, of course you'll wear your tzitzit. It's a mitzvah. You'll see. They will be proud of you keeping the mitzvah. I said, no. I had Jewish friends in that school, non-Jewish friends. I said, but the Jewish friends and the non-Jewish friends, they're going to laugh at me. I was the only frum kid there. Anyway, I went to school the next day. We were taken on a coach to the football pitch. We were in the locker room before. I went into a corner, started to change, took off my shirt, and then it happened. One of the kids screamed, hey, look what he's got! And they all started to form a circle around me. And they were looking intensely. One of the boys came up and he held the tzitzit. And he said, isn't it great? He's wearing some lucky strings for the match. So all the boys came and held the tzitzit. Wow, lucky strings, thank you so much. Anyhow, we went out to play. Baruch Hashem, we won 2-0. I scored both the goals. And after that, before every single match, all the boys came to check up that I was wearing my lucky strings. And they noticed I was wearing them on other days as well. And I must tell you, they worked so well for me, I wear them to this day. So at the age of 10, I discovered something. They won't see what we're about. Let's pronounce it to the world. Might be a bit hard, might be a bit strange, but they will respect us for respecting our tradition. Gemara Masechet Sukkah, the Talmud tells us that there was a minhag in Yerushalayim HaKodesh, an ancient minhag. You know how in Yerushalayim we're traditionally machmir over other places. So during the festival of Sukkot, everywhere a person walked, lulavo beyado. He held his lulav in his hand. He went with the palm branch wherever he went. So Mefarshim asked, why is it that on Purim, let's say, there's no minhag of Megillah b'yado? On Rosh Hashanah, Shofara b'yado. On Pesach, Matzah b'yado. Why only during Sukkot is there a minhag lulavo b'yado? Yerushalayim, they carried their lulav wherever they went. And the Mefarshim answer and they say, a piece of matzah, a shofar, a Megillah, you can tuck it into a deep pocket. You can hide it. Lulav you can't hide. The lulav is the symbol of the straight spine, our pride in our Yiddishkeit. So you carry the lulav around, let other people see it. This is what we keep. And sure enough, the festival of Sukkot is the only festival which you can't keep underground. Because the definition of a sukkah is that it's open to the elements. It has to be seen by the naked eye. So through the festival of Sukkot, we're declaring to the world, we're Jewish, and we're proud of it. When I was Chief Rabbi of Ireland, which was a very exciting and marvelous experience that my wife and I and our family had, at that time in the Dáil, which is the Irish Parliament, there were three main political parties, and there was a Jewish member in the Parliament called a Truck the Dáil, member of the Dáil, for each one of the parties. And a general election was coming up. And one of the Jewish members of the Dáil, the Irish Parliament, if his party, the Fine Gael party, would have won the election, he would have become the Minister of Justice in the Irish government. He wasn't a man whom we saw regularly in shul. He didn't associate himself strongly with the Jewish community. And I was listening to the radio a week before the election. There was a radio phone-in. Somebody called and said, Mr. X, you're standing for election again. If your party gets in, you're going to be the Minister of Justice. And there are some big issues in Ireland relating to the church and Catholic tradition. There's going to be a referendum on abortion, a referendum on divorce. Will your Jewish background have any influence to play In the policies you will adopt as the Minister of Justice. And I'll never forget the man's answer. He said, "My Jewishness is an accident of my birth. I'm an Irishman like anyone else, and if I'm in government, I will be loyal to the Irish people. My Jewishness will not play a part." I was really angry, deeply upset to hear this. There were a few more people calling in, and then there's a call from a lady. She says, "Mr. X, I'm so-and-so, I'm a member of your constituency. I am Catholic, and I voted for you in every single election, but what I heard you say 10 minutes ago has made me decide I'm not voting for you again. I'm Catholic, and I'm proud of it. You're Jewish, and you should also be proud of it." And that indeed is a strong lesson that I've learnt time and time again. In fact, not only is our respect for our faith something that people appreciate, it also causes a huge kiddush Hashem. I had a remarkable experience in the UK through what we call Shabbat UK. Chief Rabbi Warren Goldstein of South Africa established the Shabbos Project. It's worked very well worldwide. And in the UK, we've decided the last 2 years to create our own model. We call it Shabbat UK. And the idea is to get as many people, as many kahillas engaged with Shabbat. And the result has been quite phenomenal. We have estimated that more than 50%, more than half the Jews in Britain were connected, and many of them were actually keeping that particular Shabbat. Something remarkable. And there was a dimension to Shabbat UK I never appreciated would happen. The extent to which the non-Jewish world heard about it and were raving about it. I was finding that I was being interviewed on radio and television all about this concept of Shabbat. What is it? What does it mean? And I was expressing the term digital detox. This is what Jewish people need. This is what everybody needs in our modern, sophisticated, fast-moving, creative era. We're finding that the digital world is controlling us. Instead, we need to control our environment. And that's why we need one day in the week in which we take a rest. We have a digital detox day, otherwise known as Shabbat. Little did I expect that in a newspaper we have, the Times, it's our equivalent of the New York Times. In the Times, on the Shabbos before Shabbat UK, the head editorial called upon every Jewish citizen in Britain to keep the following Shabbat, and then went to call on every citizen in Britain to nominate one day in 7, which would be their digital detox day. Because the Jewish people have got it right. Isn't this remarkable? Through us speaking about Shabbat, proclaiming it, being proud of it, what we find is that Shabbat Kodesh is more relevant in our 21st century than it has ever been in the history of the world before. That's thanks to the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us the Torah of timeless value and relevance. And the rest of the world appreciates it to the extent that they want to embrace what we have. That's what happens when we're proud of our Yiddishkeit. As a result, we're able to reflect our glorious tradition and be a veritable light unto the nations of the world. And let me say one last word. It's about Torah study. You can only be an outstanding Jewish person if you know what it's about. And you can only know what it's about if you engage with the Torah. The Torah is not only our guide to life. Just engaging in the mitzvot on the Torah gives us a phenomenal experience of immersing ourselves in our spiritual tradition. And this is something which the rest of the world envies enormously. It's the fact that we study Torah, we love the tradition, we're a people full of morals and of ethics. At a time when the world is faced by so many challenges relating to Tuha, relating to all that which is inappropriate, there are so many people who look to us and they say, wow, you've got meaning in life. You've got happiness in life. You've got a family structure that is strong. You're maintaining great values. This is the kind of thing all of our society should have. And where does it come from? It comes from our Torah. And therefore, what I want you to know is how fortunate you are to be in the school, to be engaged in Torah, to appreciate the value of Torah, to enable you to know that is the basis upon which our lives are built and maintained, and through which we can have outstanding lives filled with morals and ethics, and most importantly, filled with happiness. Yiddishkeit equals fun. A Torah way of life equals joy. If do it Hashem b'simcha, it's through our Torah study we can have genuine meaning and happiness in life. People out there recognize it. Therefore, my message to you is, like Har Sinai, like a mountain, in the midst of the modesty you will please God always have, stand up with pride as high as possible, proud of your traditions, of our Torah, of our Yiddishkeit, of Shabbos, of all of the mitzvot. Wear those tzitzit. Let people see them. They'll respect you for it. They won't mock you. At least I hope not. And you will see that it will give you wonderful experiences in life. Now, Kadosh Baruch Hu bless you as proud Jews throughout the rest of your lives to only have Rabbi. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Mirvis. We really appreciate it. Won't you please head